Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ria Ganesh. I'm the Vice President of Philanthropy at North York General Foundation. Thank you for being here today for Rose Reisman's Spring Cooking class in support of North York General Hospital. As many of us are at home and in the third wave of the pandemic, this is a wonderful way to stay connected, have fun, and learn some new dishes. I would like to thank Rose for volunteering her time in support of North York General, and in appreciation to the North York General team for their tireless hard work and dedication over the past year and the ongoing battle we face now in the third wave of this pandemic. We also have some staff registered for today's event, so I extend my deepest gratitude for the work that they do every day. For those who may not know, North York General is a leading community academic hospital serving nearly 1 million people each year. We have one of the busiest emergency departments in the GTA, one of the highest volume single site birthing centers in Canada, and we are well recognized for clinical excellence, including breast cancer and colorectal care cancer, family medicine, children's mental health, and palliative care. This year, we were recognized by Newsweek magazine as the #1 community hospital in Canada. It's through the support of events like these that North York General Hospital is able to continue providing exceptional care for generations of family in our diverse communities. We also appreciate donations to the hospital, especially those in these challenging times. And if you'd like to provide your support, I will be including our donation link in the chat. Currently, this event has already raised $1,586, so thank you for your support. Now I think it's time to start cooking, so grab your apron. It is my pleasure to introduce Rose Reisman. Rose is an award-winning entrepreneur, caterer, author, and media personality, not to mention a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 4. As a registered nutritional consultant, armed with an MBA, Rose has taken her passion for healthy living and developed into a multifaceted enterprise, making her one of Canada's authorities on the art of eating and living well. Rose is a frequent speaker on national TV and radio, including breakfast television and 680 News. I hope you enjoyed today's cooking class. Rose, I'm going to hand over the virtual mic to you.
Thanks so much for joining me in my cooking event on spring cooking. And listen, I don't have to tell you, it's been a tough year for everybody, no matter where you live. But I wish right now I lived in Nova Scotia. So if anybody's out there, you're very lucky. I hear you're opening up and things are good out there. And hopefully we'll be getting things together here. I've had my vaccine, so I feel a little lighthearted right now, which is really good. So over the last year, over a year, I think many of us has gotten into some good, some bad habits in eating. I know in the beginning, I was at my fridge probably every 15 to 20 minutes as I was at my computer coming in, and it was just comfort. It made me feel a lot better when I ate. And I usually do tend to eat the right things, but you know what? As you know, the lockdown started coming and the fear, the anxiety, the stress, I wasn't eating so well. So we call it the COVID-15. It's like when you go away to university, the freshman 15. Many of us did gain weight, but you know what? Light's at the end of the tunnel. Let's start looking at a healthier lifestyle. So I came out with a book during COVID, and I postponed it and came out a few months later, called The Meal Revolution. And this was a book I wanted to put together because I really enjoyed the latest food guide that came out just about a year and a half, 2 years ago, but I didn't start writing about it until last year, didn't want to start promoting it until, we were, well, more or less getting through COVID. The new food guide, in case many of you don't know, is very, very different than the past. And this is really the first cookbook ever written to address the food guide. So what it basically says is that we should be eating a more plant-based diet. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a vegetarian or a vegan. Doesn't mean you cut out meat, fish, or chicken. What it does mean is that tonight, when you sit down to dinner, look at your plate. Basically, we're saying half of that plate should be all veggies and or fruit, produce. A quarter of it should be grains, and a quarter of it should be protein. And it could be animal protein, but they're asking you during the week, try to go to a little more plant-based protein. So if it's different forms of tofu, that's fine. If that's not your thing, beans, lentils, like peanut butter. I mean, there's so many sources that you can enjoy plant protein, and try substituting 2 meals a week. And that's how you start. And you know, it's funny, when I started doing this a couple of years ago, all of a sudden my taste for animal protein just really reduced. So, you know, you'll see today we are doing a lovely chicken dish, but I do tend to put it over a beautiful pilaf of arugula and tomato. So in other words, I'm emphasizing more the plant and de-emphasizing the protein. So that's where it goes. What I'm going to ask you is to save your questions, go into the chat room. And after each recipe I finish, we'll be doing 3 recipes today. Please just go to the chat room, type in your question, and then one of our moderators will help to answer it. And Ria, thank you so much for the introduction. It's a real joy to do this. My heart's always in cooking and teaching people healthier lifestyles. So I'm going to start with dessert first, I think, because I love dessert. This book, also Meal Revolution, deals with all food trends and food diets. So there's gluten-free recipes, there's vegan, Instapots in here, bowls, sheet pan. And the desserts, I try to concentrate on either adding a vegetable, a fruit, or gluten, making them gluten-free, using some whole wheat flour. So what I'm going to start with right now is a chocolate zucchini bundt cake, all right, with a cream cheese frosting. It sounds decadent, it is, but it's really delicious and much healthier for you than most normal bundt cakes. So you're going to use a bundt pan. If you don't have a bundt pan, you can easily use a 10-inch pan and get away with it. And the only thing I always tell you is when you check your timing when it's cooking, I'll give you some signals of what you watch out for if you're going to change pan size. All right, so you have the recipe there. And I'll add, first of all, my sugar. I have a cup of sugar. If you want to reduce sugar in your diet, that in a recipe, there's no problem whatsoever. Reduce it by about 1/4 the amount. Doing much more than that might affect the texture. Can you use brown sugar over white? Yes. Is brown sugar healthier for you? No. It's got some molasses added to it, but it's virtually the same nutritionally. But if you're going to use brown sugar, you actually need more for the same sweetness. All right, so now we're going to use 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Now, there isn't a recipe that you can find that tastes delicious that only has 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Most carrot cakes or zucchini cakes call for 3/4 cup to a cup of oil. So now you're going to say, but Rose, is going to taste as good. I'm going to show you how I basically trick your taste buds into tasting moisture and some of that fat, but not giving all of those excess calories. Now, from there, I'm going to add 2 eggs. And again, can you add an egg substitute? Absolutely. But 2 eggs, this cake is going to serve over 12 or 14 slices. I serves 12. So I wouldn't be too concerned here. And we are finding that now the cholesterol in eggs may have nothing at all to do with your blood cholesterol. All right, so we've got 2 eggs in there. Now I'm going to add a cup of applesauce. So we all heard the trick of applesauce before. I always use unsweetened. Don't buy the sweetened one. You can find the unsweetened, in small packs or jars like this. And anything left over, just put it in a little container and freeze it. It freezes beautifully. Now, one of the reasons I use applesauce, a lot of people got into using applesauce a lot and trying to take out all the oil. Remember those days where everybody wanted to cut all the fat out of their diet? They substituted all applesauce. Didn't work so well. What ended up happening was that it became rubbery. So you can't eliminate all the fat. Now we're going to call for 1 ripe banana. You may not recognize what this is. This was a ripe banana that I froze. And I have about 100 of them in my fridge, okay? I make banana bread or whatever else all the time. Again, another moisturizer for your cake. It will moisten it beautifully. And I just freeze them in the skin. I just think it's a lot easier. And now we're going to add about 1/4 cup of cocoa. Okay, to give it a little bit of chocolate flavor. A little bit of cinnamon. And you notice, if I didn't say this in the directions, and I tell you to mix the eggs and sugar first, you can mix anything wet and a little bit of the cocoa powder all together without hurting the texture. If you add the flour and everything in and together, it will be too tough. So I'm going to add all my liquid in. All right, and now let's mix this up. So a nice big bowl. You don't need a food processor for this. And then in a moment, I'll show you what it will look like in my little spotlight. So let's just mix this up. So I love this because you're not sitting mixing butter and sugar together for 10 minutes. This is really, really simple. And I'll just put this over here to make sure you can see it all right. And hopefully, can you see that okay? I'm just looking to see if I can see that. Do you see that, Ria?
Your camera's not on the spotlight area, Rose.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Let me see. Is that it?
No, the camera's off.
Oh, the camera's off. Okay. Oh boy. Alrighty. Is that on?
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Great. So you can see that well? So you can see you don't have to over mix this at all. It's just nicely blended together. And now I'm going to add in 1 cup of, oh no, before I do that, I'm going to add my zucchini. So here's the trick. Zucchini, carrots, sweet potatoes, whatever you have will work with this very well. I'm calling for about 1.5 cups. Okay, you could do this in a food processor or just easily with a grater like this. I'm going to just put in another 1/2 cup. And again, sweet potato. What else? I like carrots. I mean, they're good, but then that's a carrot chocolate cake, which is good too. Again, the zucchini, will it add a lot of flavor? No, but it will add the moisture, and the texture is really, really nice in here. Okay, that's about 1/2 cup, and I already had a cup. Now we'll mix this up. And then I'm finally going to add my cup of all-purpose flour and a cup of whole wheat. Okay. Now, can you use all whole wheat? Here we go again for substitutions. If you use all whole wheat, it's going to come out pretty dry. So I like, again, unless a recipe in a book is made with all whole wheat flour, I like to substitute 50-50, which works really well. And it gives you more fiber, which is nice, a little bit of an earthier flavor. And that was just some chocolate chips I mixed in. Where would we be without chocolate chips? So I love this cake because it bakes up quickly. You can eat it warm or just put it in the fridge or the freezer. And it's a great cake to have for a brunch, for a nice dessert. Like I have dessert every single night in my home, but it's not whipping cream and it's not tons of butter or tons of chocolate. But I'll have a cake like this. I'll cut it in. It's just my husband and I in my home. I will cut it into 8 pieces, and I'll always take out a nice wedge that I keep on the counter in my cake dome for me to have a snack, because I really believe you shouldn't be cutting out any food. You should always enjoy it in moderation. But when you're dealing with lots of butter and cream, it's really addictive. It's not always that moderation that we need. And of course, finally, some baking powder, baking soda, and there's a little bit of salt. And I never used to add salt to my desserts, but I started to, just because it really brings out the flavor of the cocoa and the chocolate. So the little bit of salt I add, you don't have to worry at all about sodium, and that's good. Now, I always like tasting the batter. I won't because you're all watching me, but the batter is absolutely delicious. So I'm going to now pour this into my Bundt pan. And you remember, as I'm saying Bundt pan, do you remember my big fat Greek wedding when she brought over the Bundt cake, or when she had, I think, a flour in there or something? That's what I always remember when I do this. Okay. See for a minute. Sorry, this is just really heavy. Lori, I'm going to have you assist me here. Lori's over here. Say hello, Lori, to the camera. You hold that. I'm just going to, thank you, scoop it all in. And then we're going to pop this in the oven. Now, here's about baking times. I don't know your oven. You don't know mine. You might be using convection. Here's the secret, that my recipe here says 35 to 40 minutes. What I always do with a cake, no matter whose recipe it is, I always cut it back by about 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm going to even make sure and check this at 30 minutes, put a tester in, just a wooden skewer or a knife, and you're going to test it to see if it comes out just dry. You do not want it to be too dry. You'll overbake it, nor do you want it to come out wet. So I'll show you this in a minute. I have my clock. Thanks, Lori. And I'll show you just what it looks like. So you can see, okay, you can see it's a beautiful, beautiful batter. And I'm going to pop this in the oven now, and we'll time it for 30 minutes, Lori. Then I'm going to make my cream cheese frosting. And I'll actually probably decorate this in front of you, because we always say by the magic of TV, I'm going to have the cake finished, which I already baked another one. And hold on 1 minute. Just want to get my food processor here. My camera coming over, or maybe we'll just go over there and hold the camera back. All right, so I've got a mini food processor. All I'm going to do is add some icing sugar. Oops, it's okay. Yeah, you just have to hold it, Lori. Icing sugar and some light cream cheese. And let me see. You could add a little bit of vanilla if you want. Now, if this turns out too thick, I don't add water to it right away, because I never know what cream cheese you're buying. We'll float like this. Just until it's light and smooth. And you end up with a lovely cream cheese frosting, which I'll show you in just a minute. That's just perfect for spreading, and without using, you can see there, without using, can you see that okay? Yeah, I want to make sure it didn't shut off again. Yeah, you can see that. So it's very beautiful, beautiful consistency. You can chill it if you want, or you can drizzle it right over the cake. So I'm going to show you right now how I'm going to drizzle it. Lori, let's bring over my cake. And my dish is here, my glass plate. Thank you. So this came out of the oven not that long ago. You can just take a knife to go around the ends, but it will pop out without a problem as long as you sprayed it well. So I'm just going to invert it like this. Okay, voila, looks really beautiful. Really, really nice cake. And then I can just drizzle over the cream cheese frosting like this, or you could spread it whatever you want. Again, normally in any kind of carrot cake or zucchini cake, there's usually about two cups of cream cheese. Here, I only used 1/3 of a cup. And because all you're really looking for is a flavor. I mean, traditional cheesecake, like the Cheesecake Factory, oh my goodness, one piece comes in at about 700 calories and 40 grams of fat. Nobody needs that much. But this just gives you a great flavor. And then I'll show you a little trick that I didn't put into the recipe. If you want to have some fun, I melt a little bit of semi-sweet chocolate. You take about 1 ounce and you add about 1 teaspoon of oil, and you can just microwave that for about 1 minute on high. Okay, I'll just show you here. Let's see. That worked okay. And this is a nice little glaze to have over top. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I think it needs a little more. Sorry about that. Well, you can give me a little spoon. And I'm going to just drizzle this over top and cut a piece for you so you can see how beautiful it is. You can serve it up with some raspberries too if you'd like. So while we're doing that, we're going to soon in a minute go over the recipe too. Feel free to ask me some questions.
Hi, Rose. We have a couple of questions. From Ruth, can you make the cake gluten-free? What flour do you recommend?
This is a tough one without me actually experimenting with it. In this book, I have a lot of gluten-free recipes, but you can't just substitute one for one. So you'd have to come back to me and ask me once I try testing it. As I say in the book, I really had to play with almond flour, coconut flour. Those were the ones that almond flour is great, but if you use too much of it, it can taste too almondy. So I tend to combine coconut and almond flour together. But this one now, because it calls for 2 full cups of flour, I'd have to go back to the drawing board. So sorry about that. But there are a lot of recipes without the flour. Any other questions?
Can you substitute the sugar with coconut sugar? Is it a healthier option?
It is a healthier option people get sometimes very fooled by these substitutes. It is healthier. Is it really healthy? No, it's still a sugar, but it's less processed sugar. So by all means, yes, you can buy coconut sugar. If people haven't bought coconut sugar, you can find it virtually in most supermarkets. It is more expensive, of course, than sugar, but it works really, really well. And in this book, I do call for coconut sugar, but I always tell you, or regular sugar. So just to show you what will be my little evening snack tonight, a beautiful, beautiful piece of cake. I'll put this up over the light. You can see that okay?
It's just a couple more questions, if that's okay.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Does
Yes.
the banana need to be mashed?
Nope. You just put it in. And once it's ripe enough, just make sure it's ripe enough. Now, I like the ones out of my freezer because they just mash up instantly. If you have one on the counter and you're stuck because it's not that ripe, then if it's a little firmer, you'd like to mash it up before. But mine out of the freezer are so perfect, I never even worry about mashing it up. Any other questions?
It looks like you don't have to squeeze the water from the zucchini before you add it to the rest of the ingredients.
Isn't that nice? Like I love, my books are all, this is now my 21st book. Every book I write, I say, I want to use it. I want to be quick and efficient in my kitchen. So I try to avoid anything that's just going to take you more time.
And with regards to the Bundt pan, can you use just a square Pyrex pan?
Yeah, sure. I would say make sure you do at least a 9-inch, not an 8-inch. And you can even make this in a nice 9x13, so you get nice squares out of it. So again, just the tester, I'll show you once this one comes out of the oven, what you look for. Remember, sometimes if you feel your cake's dry, remember, we're not adding a cup of butter to it or a cup of oil or a cup of full fat sour cream. So you've got to be careful with your baking. Even if a few crumbs come out on the toothpick, it's perfect. Just leave it like that.
There was some clarification on the baking powder and baking soda, and I believe that this one is half of baking soda for the recipe.
Let me just look at my recipe here for a minute. So we have, yes, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda. If you didn't have the baking soda, would it be the end of the world? No, you could use all baking powder. Usually you add the baking powder is what gives it its lift, and the baking soda often goes just as it counteracts an acidic in there, like the applesauce.
Okay, and just a couple of more. Do I have to wait until the cake is cooled off before icing?
You know what? If you want to, Lori, we'll just get ready for the chicken recipe now. If you want to invert it, you have to wait a few minutes for sure. I mean, honestly, I'd wait at least 30 to 40 minutes. And what I do when the weather's cooler outside, I just put it outside or even into my freezer for about 15 minutes if I'm in a rush. So I like to ice it more when it's not really hot because it will start to make that cream cheese dressing a little too loose.
Do we have time for a few more?
Sure, go ahead. We're just get up here.
Okay, if no whole wheat flour on hand, how much regular flour?
Regular, 1 for 1.
1 for 1. Can I substitute applesauce with yogurt?
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there a time difference if you were making muffins instead of the cake?
Oh, yes. So a muffin usually takes about 12 to 16, 18 minutes, depending on the size. So this would probably make 12 nice size muffins. I'd say you're looking at 14, 15 minutes.
Thank you. Do you need to peel the zucchini?
I don't. Again, lazy chef here. That should be my next book. No, you don't have to peel the zucchini because it's not a skin that you're going to taste nor see.
And when you were greasing the Bundt pan, is it butter or oil that you're using?
Vegetable oil, but I'm going to show you something in my next recipe where, my mother, who was an Eastern European cook, used to cook and just take the oil container, having a conversation with somebody and pouring it, 2 inches of oil in the pan. And I'd say, Ma, I mean, oil is good for you, but you don't need all that excess in terms of calories, because remember, 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories. So even though you're having all the olive oil in the world, it's great for your heart, not so great for your hips, right? So what you want to do is say to yourself, okay, how do you measure it carefully? So I put my oils now into a little bottle like this, and I keep it tinted so that the light doesn't hurt it, and I spray. Now, when I'm measuring a quarter of a cup of oil, of course, I won't do that. I'll use a bottle, but this is how I will spray. You can spray. If you don't want to use the vegetable sprays in the can, if people are against that for the environment, then you can use some oil like this, but then you're going to dust it with flour afterwards. So you'll spray your entire Bundt pan with this and sprinkle some flour over top.
And 2-ounce semi-sweet chocolate, and how much oil for icing?
I'm sorry. Oh, I would say if you take 1 ounce of semi-sweet chocolate, 1 to 2 ounces, and perhaps 1 teaspoon of oil per ounce. And then you can use high, even microwave it on high for about 30 to 45 seconds. Then mix it, see if it's starting to soften. Just be careful you don't put it for too long and high, or you could scorch the actual chocolate. So you don't want to do that, because once chocolate is burnt, you have to toss it.
Thank you. And if you don't like zucchini, can you use bananas?
You can use more, or use carrots, sweet potatoes, because we're trying to get a little bit of the vegetable in there. So it's 1.5, but if not, you could use more bananas. Yes, you could.
Okay. And sorry if you said this, what's the temperature if you were doing muffins instead?
I still keep 350. Often a lot of people like 375 for muffins. I tend to use 350. So I'm going to try right now. I'm going to have a little bite of this because I guess I can. I love this cake. It's very, very moist. It's got a nice density. It's really good. Promise me you make this. This is fantastic. I like my own cooking. All right. Now we're going to move on to our chicken dish. And this is another really great recipe in the book. It's a lemon crusted chicken. Easy to make, and I'll tell you why the more so great in it. So the recipe actually says just a pound of boneless chicken breast. I usually get about 1.5 pounds. It really won't matter with the recipe. I like to have 3 breasts if I can. Some are thicker. So when you're cooking chicken, I tend to find people overcook their chicken because they're terrified of, getting some foodborne illness. First of all, I use, and I'll show you later, an electronic thermometer. And if you don't have one, just go on Amazon or Canadian Tire. They're about $29. I hope you've seen them. You just end up putting the temperature to what you're cooking on the set. So chicken should be cooked at 160, but reach 165 when it's cooked. So don't set it to 165, because when you pull it out, it's going to go up to 170 or 175. So I set it to 160 here. All right. And then all you do is you put it into the thickest part of the chicken. The wire comes out of the oven, so you're not constantly opening and closing and checking with your probe. It's really annoying. This way it will ring. So we're going to use this very soon. And again, all different makes you can use. All right. So this is a great recipe without having to marinate the chicken, because it actually will marinate in the oven. We're going to start out with some panko crumbs. Now, if you don't have panko crumbs, by all means, you can use regular breadcrumbs or seasoned breadcrumbs. The reason I like panko, and you can buy it anywhere, it gives you a much crunchier texture over your fish or your chicken. It's really, really delicious. And then 1/4 cup of parsley. Now, what's interesting is people ask me, is panko, because it's made from rice flour, is it gluten-free? It's not, but believe it or not, there is gluten-free panko now that you can buy. So we're offering everything for everybody that's got, allergies or food intolerances. So we're going to add a little bit of parsley. Now, remember, no such thing as chicken sushi. So when I touch the chicken, I always want to go over and wash my hands carefully after I touch raw chicken. And now we're going to add a garlic clove. And you can, I always like to have fresh garlic on hand. You can buy the garlic already pre-chopped in a jar if you want, but I find fresh garlic is just so good. So I'm going to chop up a little more because I need some for the sauce as well. Let's see if you can see that okay. So just mince it, or you can get a garlic press to do this as well. Okay. And we're going to put a little bit of this into my panko crumb mixture, and I'm going to save some more just for the lemon sauce. All right, so I put that in here, and then we're going to put a little bit of salt and pepper in. Up to you. I'm using a Himalayan salt, the pink salt, I think, just because I like the color of it. Here's the thing about salt. If you have high blood pressure or you're concerned about high blood pressure, do not worry about the salt you add in your home, as long as you're not adding teaspoons of it to your food. Where you have to be careful is restaurant food, takeout, and processed or packaged foods, and frozen. So if you're eating a lot of takeout or a lot of packaged food from the supermarket, that's where all your sodium is, not from what's at home. Okay, and a little bit of oregano, just a little bit of dry oregano. So you'll see in a minute, this is a dry mix. There's no fat in here at all to make it moist, but you'll see how it will get very, very moist in just a moment. So I'm going to take my chicken, and now I'm going to spray a little bit of oil over it. It says about a tablespoon. Okay, so here, now you see I'm rubbing my chicken. So you want to be careful afterwards. We're going to pour on about half the crumbs, just like this. Okay, and it says both sides, so we'll flip it over, and don't worry, you can just dust it again if you need, but it starts to stick a little more. Okay, so I like the idea of putting it in a bottle so you don't get too crazy or loose with the amount of oil we use. All right, perfect. And then we're going to flip that over, and if there's any little bald spots, you still have a little bit left. Okay, so you're going to give me 1 minute while I just go wash my hands for a second. And if there's extra crumbs, don't worry, they're absolutely delicious. Okay, so give me 1 minute. Always wash your hands with warm water and soap, just to make sure there's no chicken left there. Okay, so now we're going to make our sauce. So I have, let me see if I have enough here. Yes. All right, so it's going to start off with another clove or half a clove of garlic, which we'll put in, 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Let's see here. All right, I like to just use a little wooden lemon squeezer like this. If you don't, you can always, as you know, buy the ones where the seeds are caught beforehand. This one is a larger one, doesn't have a lot of seeds, which is really nice. Okay, and that's getting close to 1/4 cup of let me make sure I'm right here. Yes, lemon juice, and I still need a little more. Okay, just to make that a full quart. So there's a lot of lemon juice, 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, there you go. And a little bit of dry oregano. That's it. So with this sauce now, all we're going to do is pour half of it over the chicken. And Lori, if I could have just a little fork or spoon. Thank you. That's great. Thanks. So just mix this up, and half of this is going to pour over the chicken. And this is what's going to make it so moist and delicious. All right. So just mix this up well. Just spoon it over like this, just about half the amount. Now this dish, I promise you, and people love it because it's dairy-free and it is so moist. All right, and we'll save the rest for when it comes out of the oven, and I'll just show you what this looks like here. You can see that. Looks good. And now I believe we are going to pop that into the oven at 400 degrees. And normally I like to cook my chicken at 400 to 425, but you don't want 425 here because it might burn the crumbs. And we're going to put our electronic thermometer in, and we're going to wait to hear the ding. So again, it depends on how thick your chicken is. Here's the problem. If you have a really thin breast, a really thick breast, you're going to have to remove the thin breast first. So right now I'm going to put it into one of the smaller breasts. And when that's ready, we might have to pull it out in advance. And it shows right now, if you can see that, it shows right now it's at about 100 and, it's about 80 degrees. I'm sorry, 60 degrees. And we want to get it up to 160. Okay, so I'm going to, Lori, pop this in the oven. Remember, the wire stays out. Don't put the whole thing in. All right, and then all we're going to do, and that's going to cook, I'd say it might take about 20 minutes to cook. So my arugula and tomato salad is just going to be on a pilaf underneath the chicken. So I got about 2 cups of arugula, and because I'm a big veggie eater, if you are, you can double it to 4. We're going to do about 3/4 of a cup of some diced tomatoes. Okay, might need a little more. And again, when you're cutting tomatoes, make sure your knife is really sharp. If it's not, you're going to know it, and it's not going to cut so well. And listen, during COVID, it's really tough to get your knife sharpened. If any of you live in the GTA, one place is called Nella's. It's great. It's on the 400 at Finch. And it's fabulous because you can just go in there, drop them off. You can wait in your car and they sharpen them, and really reasonably, instead of setting them out and waiting. Okay, so we got this. And then to this little arugula salad, all I'm adding is a little bit of lemon juice and salt and pepper. That's it. And then, Lori, if you bring me the large dish there. So a little bit of salt and pepper. This is going to be like your little salad. So it's almost like a 1-dish meal here. And then we're going to pull out our chicken once it's ready. And just make sure that the arugula is nicely coated with the oil. There we go. Some oil and I think a little bit of lemon juice. So my lemon, Lori, I still need my lemon and the squeezer if you have. Yeah, thank you. That's okay. Just a little squeeze, just a couple of teaspoons, and adjust it for seasoning. So if you want a little more salt, a little more lemon juice, by all means. Okay. And remember, the sauce from the chicken is going to go all over this as well. So then I like to get a really nice large platter like this. Just put this away. Cooking can be a bit of a messy business. Thanks, Lori. Okay, let's put our chicken over top. Our arugula salad. And as I say, I'm a big veggie eater, so I could eat all this by myself. So by all means, if you want to double this up, do that. And then once the chicken comes out, we can either slice it in half or slice it in medallions to serve. So we'll just put this over to the side for now. All right, and you can see how lovely that looks. And then we will just put our chicken over top. So let's have some questions before we set up for our last dish, which is our avocado, tomato, and cucumber salad. Questions, please.
Rose, just with regards to the cake, someone has tried it before and they said it came out too dry. What did I do wrong? I used 1.5 cups of carrots.
Okay, yeah. So if it came out too dry, you over mixed it or over baked it. And like I said, ovens are really tricky. My time might say 35 to 40 minutes. As I said, err on the side of saying, you know what, my oven might not be 100% calibrated, or Rose's oven is different than mine, or I'm at a different altitude. Put a toothpick in at 30 minutes. So I can promise you that probably when you pulled it out, it was already too dry. So either over mixing, and people tend to over mix. When you're having flour, you're only mixing in your flour until you no longer see pieces of flour in there. People tend to want to keep mixing, thinking that that's a way to make a better cake. And you're actually overworking the gluten in the flour, which toughens it.
Thank you. Do you recommend pounding the chicken to an even thickness?
So you can do that, absolutely, and it will cook in much less time. I like that. This one I like to serve in medallions. So sometimes you have to be careful. If you pound it, it's cooked very quickly. So you have to keep your eye on it. So this often is a safer way of cooking. And when it's at the right temperature, I'll bring it out and show you what it looks like. But absolutely, you can pound it if you want thinner.
And is the chicken placed in the oven uncovered?
Yes. And once it comes out, I will be able to show you what it is, what it looks like. And the crumbs usually just have a beautiful, nice brown tinge to them.
Can you use canola oil in place of olive oil?
Can you use what?
Canola oil.
Absolutely. Now, olive oil has got such a rich flavor, so I do like olive oil. If I'm sauteing, I will only use another plant-based oil. I won't use olive oil because it's got a lower smoking point. And what that means is that if you heat anything over 400 degrees or saute with olive oil, you actually change the chemicals in it, and that can be dangerous. So no problem with substituting canola for the olive oil.
Okay, thank you. Can I cook the chicken at the same time as the cake?
Yeah, we've got them both going. It's great. I mean, as I say, the cake, the only thing is you don't want to, I mean, if you don't care about inverting it right away, you can eat it right. You can drizzle the icing on it. It will be looser. You can cut a piece of cake out, and it is so warm and moist. It's fantastic when it's warm like that. So yeah, you could eat it warm.
And last question, what is sprinkled on the icing in the photo?
What is
of the
what?
cake? On the cake photo, there's something sprinkled on the icing.
Oh,
I
is
think-
that
I think,
icing sugar?
or maybe
Yeah.
it was the chocolate.
Is it the chocolate or the icing sugar?
What is sprinkled on icing in the photo? So,
Oh, that's cinnamon. So a little, well, up to you. A little bit of cinnamon because there's cinnamon in there already, and cinnamon goes really well with chocolate and the vegetable and cocoa. So a little bit of cinnamon, or do what I did, whatever you'd like. Okay, so we are now going to go on to our last recipe, and I'll just double check that everything's looking good here. Oh, Lori, the cake is up. Oh, it's not out. Oh, not yet. It's no, but the chicken's not on. It's not on. What on? You have to check. Okay, let's take it out. No, let's take it out. We shut it off. You can't have it. No, I did. Okay. Sorry about that. We just noticed that our chicken oven was not preheated, so it might take a few minutes longer. But once the cake is done, we'll put it in there slowly. Okay, let's get our next one, Lori. Let's get our next dish over. Yeah, that should preheat fairly quickly. Thank you. Okay, so this is a salad that I have become addicted to. I wish I could see you all. How many of you love avocados? I'm going to show you a neat little device. If you could already pull me out the Avocado Saver. Avocados are the best, nutritious, most delicious vegetable - fruit, I think, anywhere. Yes, we all know it's high in calories, good calories, but one avocado by itself has about 300 calories and about 30 grams of fat, all heart healthy fat. So what does that tell you? It just tells you that, should you be sitting down to a whole avocado twice a day? Probably not, but highlighting it in a recipe, what I'm going to do is great. The pain about avocados, as we all know, is that avocados are really hard to buy if you want to use it right away, right? So you buy them, they're as hard as a rock. I often order from Costco and I'll get them, and they're hard, and 3 days later, they're beautiful. Now, what I do, a really great trick, is to put your hard avocados under rice. Bury it in a bed of rice, and it quickens about 50% faster than if you just leave it on the counter. Or put it in a paper bag with a banana, and that will also ripen it really quickly. So I just wanted to show you, I have one that was in the fridge probably too long. I'm going to try and open it, and I have one that feels perfect. And yes, it's a real pain when they're not good. But you know what? Believe it or not, you can actually eat them even brown. They just don't look that good. My husband eats them all the time brown. I don't. Now, if you've ever seen this, you make guacamole, right? So I love, once I had 5 left, I made a batch of guacamole, and guacamole turns black the next day. This I bought, I saw this advertised, I think when I was just in the internet, on Amazon. It's called an Avocado Saver. So you put your guacamole mash in there, and then this is like a suction. You press the top down, you keep pressing it down until it hits the top of the guacamole. which leaves no air to touch it, and it's great the next day. If there's a little brown spot because some air got into it, that's not a problem. But if you don't use something like this, they usually tend to be brown, even if you put all the lemon juice in the world over. Okay, so let's get started on this salad. And I might have to go check my cake shortly, I think. Give me 1 second because my 30 minutes now is up. So to the viewer that thought over baking, let me go take a peek. And then I'll just put the chicken in on the top. Yeah, okay, 1 second. All right, so perfect. That right now, 30 minutes that my testing seems to work. I'll show you this under our little camera. 30 minutes, and can you see that? It's still quite sticky. Okay. So it's sticky, which means it's still, I'm giving it 5 more minutes, which will bring it up to 35 minutes. And my temperature says 35 to 40. So let's take a peek at it in 5 minutes. Okay, so back to our avocado. So first of all, this calls for a medium or ripe avocado. So here's one I'm just going to check because this one was left in my fridge for over a week now. And something tells me this is overripe. So you know what? It's okay. My husband will eat it later on. But if you're doing a salad, you definitely want a beautiful one. So look, you can see how that's turned brown? So that's not one that I want to use for a salad, but I knew that ahead of time. I knew I left it there too long. So make sure you plan your avocados well. All right, let's try. This one feels really good. Just giving to the touch just a little bit, but something tells me that this one's going to be really nice. And I'll show you a quick way to get the pit out too. What you can do, well, that already came out. So that one looks gorgeous. Look, you see, beautiful, nice flesh. And then all we're going to do is use a spoon. You can take it out any way you want, but I'm going to use a spoon just to scoop it out like that. And then the pit, you have to be careful of the pit. You can always stick the knife in, but you got to be careful. Sometimes that knife doesn't come out so easily. All right. And you can see I scooped that out really nicely. All right. And let's just cut away the pit now. And then all we're going to do is dice the avocado. And again, this is a dish you could do earlier in the day because it's going to have lemon juice on it. So you won't have to worry about it browning. Don't do it though the day before. Now, I do find the next day it's okay to eat, but it may not look as nice. All right, so here we are. Let's just cut this in some cubes. Love avocado. Babies love avocado. Oh my goodness. I'm very blessed with 4 grandchildren, all under the age of 6, and they love avocados. Love it. Great, healthy for you. Omega fatty acids, really, really good. So if you love avocados, you know what? Go ahead and use 2 of them if you really want. Now, the avocado gives a richness and a creaminess to this salad, so you don't need, again, tons of oil. All right, here we go. Let's put this all into our bowl. We'll mix this together, then put it in a nice serving dish. Okay, and now we need about 2 cups of halved cherry tomatoes. So I love cherry tomatoes. As the weather gets better, you can start finding the beautiful different colored cherry tomatoes. So I've got some that I'm just going to throw in here. Very, very simple salad. And again, there is a trick to doing this. You can put, if you get me 2 lids, I'm going to show you what you can do. You may have seen this trick before. Okay, so just 2 lids, yeah. Perfect. So here's a little trick you can use. I don't know if it works okay. You put your cherry tomatoes on a lid like this. I feel like a little bit of a magician when I'm doing this. I hope it works. So you put a bunch on like this. I think this is how you do it. You put the lid over top, and then you slice through. Let's see if that worked. Okay. And it worked. There you go. So that surprised me as well. Perfectly half cut. So it's just a nice little trick you can do if you have to cut a lot of them. And then we have 2 cups of some diced cucumber. And for this, I love to use the mini cucumbers. 2 reasons. They're not as wet, and there's no seeds, and you don't have to remove the seeds. So I love the little mini ones. You usually find them in packages of 5 or 6. And let's see, we're just I slice them up into quarters. Okay, and let's pop this into the salad. So it really looks like a nothing salad, but the avocado is what makes this creamy and really, really rich. Okay, and then some red onion. Now, if you don't love red onion, you could use a really nice sweet Medallion. Lori, will you check that for me with the tester? So we'll see what our tester looks like now. We'll put it in the middle. Okay. And a little bit of red onion, or you can use a sweet, as I said, sweet onion, or even some green onions. I mean, I like onions in it. I think it gives it a really nice bite. Okay, so I'm looking carefully. If you want to look under here, there's a little bit, a teeny crumb. It's perfect. So you see, you don't see any visible lumps of cake on it. Pull it out now. So mine did not need the 40 minutes. So I think what happens, people wait till it's totally dry. Let's take that out, Lori, and let's put the chicken in there and time the chicken now, but turn it to 400 degrees. Okay, so that's perfect. And I'll bring over the cake for a minute just to show you. Oh, you grab it up. Okay. Just to show you what the cake looks like, if you can see that, beautifully raised. Okay, so it's perfect. I'm going to let it cool now. Put it on a rack if you can, but looks really, really good. Okay, I'm going to put that over to the side. And then we'll have to wait for our chicken and hope that that comes out soon, Lori, eh? You know, Laura, you can put it to 4. Yeah, you put it to 425, but keep your eye on that it doesn't turn brown. Okay, so let's get some red onion in here, and just half a cup thinly sliced. Okay, so one of the key things about onion, you want to make sure when you're cutting it that you have it flat like that, because you don't want to cut yourself, right? Okay, let's make this nice, and your board has to stay nice and still. So this one's easy because it just called for some rings. More or less, whatever you like. Nice half of a cup of sweet red onions. And then we're going to add a little bit of cilantro or basil or parsley or mint even goes beautifully with this. So if you have a nice garden in your backyard, you might want to use some of that. I've got a little bit of cilantro here. So again, if you're not a lover of cilantro, some are, some not. By all means, just substitute basil or parsley. And now for our dressing, which is really simple. Oh, Marie, we saved the olive oil, right? For the chicken, we saved that. We didn't pour it out, did we? Did you? Okay, take the chicken and the recipe and just create that dressing, half of it. You threw it out. Okay. All right. And now we need a little bit of olive oil. So 2 tablespoons of olive oil go into this. A little bit of garlic. Did I put my garlic in yet? My garlic is right there. Yeah, a little bit of garlic. And again, I have a friend who's got an allergy to garlic. And I love garlic. Not a big deal. What you have to do if you have an allergy to garlic or someone hates garlic, just add in a little more seasoning. So here, you could add a little more salt and pepper. You could add in more mint or parsley. You're just looking for a nice, distinct flavor. Okay, a little bit of garlic in here. And let me see, some lemon juice. Okay, and I need my squeezer again, Lori. She's too quick, Lori, here for me. And about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So I'm going to say that probably this is about a half of a lemon. It's probably going to give me close to 2 tablespoons. All right. And then a little bit of salt and or pepper. And just mix this up. And as this sits, I mean, you could make this earlier in the day. As this sits, the avocado starts to release some of its fat, and it almost makes the dressing creamy. So I'm going to show you, we're going to throw this into a beautiful serving plate. And then Lori, I'll have that plate right behind you. There we go. Okay. Put this away. Gorgeous springtime summer salad. Oh my goodness. I said, my lucky husband tonight. He says, is he having dinner? I said, yes. All right. So let me just show you what this looks like. This is so good. Again, I use a little bit of the Himalayan salt. So we're going to have to wait for that chicken, guys. But if you can see that, look how beautiful that is. Is it okay, Laura?
Yeah, both of them are working, but it's so.
Yeah, I know. No, it takes time. So that's it. So in the meantime, let's just ask some questions. Let's see what my timing is. How's my timing? Yeah, pretty good. And I'd love to wait for the chicken so you can see that. So any questions now, and then we'll tidy up here a little bit.
Sure. For the chicken dish, is the oven preheated?
Yes, yes. So by accident, Lori or I don't know, we had a little accident and we didn't preheat the second oven. So not a big deal. It takes about 10 minutes to warm up.
Great. Your voice was a bit choppy when you were talking about the avocado, buying an avocado. Can you just repeat the buying tips, please?
Sure, absolutely. Hold on, I'll just bring the cake back over. I'll just bring the cake over so we're going to show our finished pieces to everything. Yes, so when you buy an avocado, what you want to do is make sure you don't pick one that's really soft, because as you see, if it's really soft, it's going to turn out brown like the other. And by all means, it's still really nice and edible. The problem is that it will have a brownish tinge, and you're going to want to cut away the brown. You won't have much avocado left. So my advice is to buy, if you know you need one in 2 or 3 days, buy a fairly firm avocado. You just press it. Don't give it too much pressure. Like this one right now feels just, I can put my thumb in a little bit, but I know, don't you want to kill the person in the supermarket that's pressing them away? Then when you get home, put them either under a bowl of rice, white rice, brown rice, doesn't matter. For about 48 hours, it really makes it riper in about 50% of the time, rather than if on the counter, it's going to take sometimes 4 or 5 days. Do not refrigerate them. If you refrigerate them, they stop ripening. When they get too ripe or just ripen up and you go, oh my goodness, dinner plans are canceled for a day. Not that any of us have dinner plans today, but all you want to do then is put it into the refrigerator at that time, and that will stop the ripening. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you. I've read that a bit of lemon juice will keep it from browning for about 1 day. What do you think about this?
I find it doesn't even do it for 1 day. You mean the avocado in general? Yeah, I find that usually putting lemon juice on helps for a couple of hours. I've even had the technique where you pour about a half an inch of water over the avocado, and believe it or not, that keeps it, but that can make your avocado a little mushy. So the lemon juice works for a few hours for sure, but keeping it longer, it's a tough one with avocado. I would try to plan on doing it that day and serving it that day.
What is the name of the gadget you used for the oven, the temperature?
Thermometer. So I'll show you. I've got about 5 of them because sometimes I'm cooking 3, 4 things at once. So this one is a kitchen aid. I just got mine at Canadian Tire, but I see them on Amazon. Any brand you get will be fine. But what you want is, I found it before by using the probe right in the chicken and opening and closing it and getting my meat and my fish perfect, because I'm really picky about that. Like I love my fish slightly undercooked. So slightly undercooked would be 125 degrees Fahrenheit. If it reaches 135, to me, it's well done. So then I don't enjoy it. So this thing is so precise. That's what I love about it. So you just turn it on, preset. You just, push it up to reach the temperature. And to make life easy for you, chicken should always be about 160 degrees, because when you bring it out, it continues cooking to at least 165. Sometimes I even bring it out at 158 because it keeps heating. If you've blown it and bring it out at 170, by accident, bring it out and immediately remove it from the dish it's cooking in, which is going to continue cooking it. So that's one. This is great. Yeah. So Canadian Tire or Amazon.
What can I use instead of lemon juice in all of the recipes?
So tell me, is there a reason you don't like lemon juice? Because you can use vinegar for sure. Are you allergic?
I'm not sure.
That's right. These questions are hard. Okay, what you want to use instead of lemon juice is a vinegar. So depending on the color, remember if you use balsamic, it's going to give it a darker tone. You can use a champagne vinegar. White wine vinegar is lovely, a tarragon vinegar. So substitute it. For some reason, I always use lemon juice. I've never been a lover of vinegar, which is crazy, except balsamic. And as I say, balsamic would tend to turn these colors, so I don't use that.
Can you freeze the cake?
Can you grease?
Freeze the cake.
Oh, absolutely. 1,000%. So what I do is you could freeze it in the Bundt pan if you want, wrap it just with some plastic wrap and foil, or once it's cool, invert it and wrap it carefully and freeze it like that. And you can freeze it with the icing on as well. And the nice thing is I make so many cakes in my home that my husband and I don't eat them all. So I always cut them up into quarters, freeze it up, and then somebody comes over, or one of my kids comes over. I've always got something to serve. So this freezes beautifully, this cake.
Perfect, thank you. There's a couple of questions with regards to the salad. The picture shows chickpeas and feta. Can you add chickpeas?
Okay, that picture then, chickpeas and feta. Hold on. Oh my goodness, I think that was the wrong picture given. Sorry about that, but that recipe is in there. That was the wrong picture given for that. Probably my mistake, but that is a great salad also with tomatoes, chickpeas, feta cheese, and I think fresh basil. So here, if you wanted to add some chickpeas and feta cheese, you could, but this one is just dynamite on its own.
Do you add any sugar in the salad because lemon juice is sour?
You know what? Don't add sugar, add a little bit of honey. So mix your olive oil, lemon juice, and maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of honey, and that will cut all the acidity. But what's nice about this, what you will see if you make this, is once you have the chicken on top and you're eating it together, you won't notice the acidity. And salt cuts the acidity. So I always put in some of my Himalayan or kosher salt, the larger grains, and that cuts the acidity as well.
And so Amy did respond to say that she is allergic to lemon juice. So is there a substitute to lemon juice?
Vinegars for sure.
And then just confirming, you said not to put the avocado in the fridge.
If it's overripe, yes. So if you bought 4 or 5 avocados and dinner plans went through and you didn't use them, put them immediately in the fridge and you might get another couple of days use out of them. They're finicky, you know, they're so delicious. And I feel for the stores, you know, they only Costco, you can get 5 for a really good price. But I feel for the stores because I can't tell you how many have to get thrown out at the end of the day or the end of a week in a grocery store.
That's it for questions for now.
All right, so we're just going to wait. What's our chicken at, Lori?
65.
Oh no, our chicken is not coming along as I need it right now. It's at 4:25. We're going to wait a few more minutes and maybe, is there anything else, Rhea, you would like to add?
No, I think this is fantastic. Great questions from everybody. I think just asking the audience if there's any other questions that Rose is here. So
yeah, I'll pull out the chicken shortly just to show you. It's a shame that it's that we just didn't have the oven, so we needed another 10 minutes. Let me see what else I can say. Well, yeah, I mean, if you use the Instapot, I have some wonderful recipes for the Instapot. I tried to look at every trend there was in this book, and if you do go, you can get the book for 10% off right now with a code that says Rose Save 10, and you just go to Amazon. But just to let you know, there's as I say, in the vegetables and vegetarian, even for, you know, maybe your partners that just say, no, I don't want to be vegetarian. You don't have to be, but really it's cutting back on, you know, on the amount of meat we eat. We really should be cutting back on that. Part of it is not just our health, but also for the environment. And part of cooking, I think a lot of the philosophy of Meal Revolution is that cooking is something that, we love to break bread together, right? We love to eat together, discussions over food. So it shouldn't be something that's just done quickly while you're at your computer or working, which I think we've all been doing over the past year. So there's something that my husband and I get into a routine of every night. In my mother-in-law, who lives behind me, he's 94, still a going concern. He goes to visit her every night. And then we sit down at around 7:30, and we always break bread together. It's just, hey, so how did the day go? What's happening? It's really a nice way to do it, and with your family as well. And the key thing for any of those who have young children, or if you've got grandchildren, you want to start kids off earlier eating well, because it's really hard, as we all know, to change your plans when you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. It can be done for sure, but it's much tougher. And many of you may know, I know that my mother, Eastern European, raised me on an Eastern European diet. It was really hard to undo some of what I was taught was good and what wasn't good. And I had a real struggle, and I still do. I'll be honest with you today. I still will struggle. I work out a lot. I eat well, but I always have to think about it. And my children, on the other hand, raised in a healthier environment home, don't think about it. They do it naturally. So that's really the key. And as you know, Canadians, Americans, we're all fighting the battle of the bulge, and chronic disease comes from, being overweight. So you always want to be very careful about that. So any questions maybe on diets or the food guide in general?
We've got a couple more questions. So just what's the name of your cookbook, and where can I buy the new book?
It's called Meal Revolution, and it's amazon.ca. And they'll ask you if you want for a coupon or a gift code, Rose Save 10, and you'll get 10% off the book. And please let me know if you like it, and email me on any questions that you might have. But some really interesting recipes, and you'll see that all of the recipes. And just to show you the chicken, so that we will see it hopefully shortly, but if you can see that picture of the chicken, that's the chicken over the arugula. And I like to serve it either whole like that, or I love to serve it sliced in medallions or sliced in half. So maybe for a couple minutes, I can just show you some more pictures and just some ideas. So here's an interesting chicken dish. I spread hummus on the bottom of the plate. Great idea. Take a little bit of arugula or spinach, mix it with some feta cheese or olive oil, and then slice some just baked, roasted, or grilled chicken over top. So again, get the idea. You're having less protein. You're having hummus, which is a great vegetarian protein. And this is the trick about trying to eat less protein at your meals. Any other?
Oh, yeah. How's the chicken cut as medallions?
I'm going to show you that shortly. How's our temperature, Lori? Is it getting there? How is it?
74.
Oh, it's still too long. Hopefully it will come in a few minutes. So what you do is you take the boneless breast and you just slice it. I might actually have a piece of chicken in there. Let me see. I do. So let me just show you a medallion right now. Okay. Hope I'm not boring you. It's good I can talk as much as I talk. Yeah, I just check that. Okay. So here's a piece of chicken I had from last night's dinner. And this one is a lovely breast of chicken, just with some, I just put some breadcrumbs on it. And I put some tomatoes and a little bit of feta or goat cheese. So medallions are nothing more than just slicing it like that. And I'm going to show you in a minute. We'll put it over our chicken. You will get a good idea of what it will look like. Okay. So this is also a way of controlling the amount of protein you eat, which I really like. So just to show you what I've done here, you can see, you see? And so as opposed to someone being forced to eat a whole chicken breast, often you find at the end, you're full, you don't really want that much of it. But I like slicing medallions because it gives you more portion control. Any other questions?
What is the leftover chicken sauce for?
Chicken sauce. Oh, so when I pull the chicken out of the oven, it is going to go over top the chicken. And that's going to be like your sauce and your marinade. And that chicken, literally, you could cut it with a fork. You don't even need a knife to cut it. It's that delicious. And Lord, we'll just make sure it's not burning. You should open the oven light. Any other questions?
Do you suggest chicken be cooked on a sheet pan or casserole dish lined with parchment or foil?
Doesn't need parchment paper unless you're using like a honey sticky glaze. I just honestly, like that one there was just put into a square inch pan because there were 3 breasts. If you have a lot of chicken breast, you don't want to overcrowd your pan. You want to make sure that you give enough space for it to cook all through. So you could use a small baking sheet or a casserole dish. It doesn't matter, foil, and that's all.
Perfect, thank you. How long should chicken rest coming out of the oven before serving?
It's best to let it rest for about 10 minutes. Now, when ours comes out, I won't wait the 10 minutes. I'll show you right away what it looks like. The reason being is that when you cut it, it starts to lose that delicious internal moisture. So if you let it rest, the moisture gets sucked into the chicken and keeps it moist. So if you pull it right off the grill and you eat it right away, the juices will come out and you'll end up with a drier breast. Now, chicken thighs are something that are fantastic. I love chicken thighs. I always buy them boneless and skinless, and that's a real treat. That would be amazing with this recipe as well. But the breasts are so good with this recipe. I'd keep it to the breast. And sometimes if you know you have a chicken thigh and it might be a drier dish, you use a chicken thigh, which has more moisture.
Great, thank you. Do you use a cake thermometer?
Let me see, a cake thermometer. No. You mean in terms of baking a cake? Never. No. I always just use my skewer, a pointy knife, or just a toothpick. And again, not that I say don't trust a recipe, just realize everybody's oven can be temperamental. And if you're using a convection oven, you want to reduce your time by about 20%. So it's considerable. So, again, I question if that person who was baking the cake had a convection oven, because I tended to test all my recipes in a regular oven just because not everybody has a convection oven. So you have to remember also, if you cook something in glass, it's going to cook faster than if you cook it in metal.
Can you summarize the main differences in the new food guide?
Oh yeah, great question. So the main differences are there's no longer a milk or a meat category. So do you remember beforehand in the food categories, you had the milk mustache, you had, the beef. Well, believe it or not, it sounds like the States almost a little political. The beef board, the milk board, the egg board, they were all giving a lot of money to have these done, and they promoted it. Now they're good foods for you, but they promoted it a little too heavily. When they said meat, they didn't really translate, should you be eating processed meat? Should you be eating beef? Should you be eating chicken? Whereas this guide will tell you to stay away from red meat more than once or twice a week. It will tell you to avoid smoked meats or have very occasionally. Milk, today they're saying vegetable milks are preferred for people, especially if they have lactose intolerances, which we're finding more and more people have. So in the protein section, what I love about it, and actually I will show you a picture for a minute, just of what the food guide looks like. I think I have one here. You'll get a good idea, and it's the hardest thing in the world to try. This is great. This is a great picture. So if you can see that, let's see if I can bring it up closer. Half of that plate is vegetables. You see peas, tomatoes, carrot, but you could even have fruit in there as well. A quarter of it there are the grains, and we're talking about 100% whole grains. And the rest here is protein. So you see eggs, you see salmon, you see beans, you see nuts, like peanut butters. All those are fantastic proteins. I know my husband's one of those lucky people that he works out a lot but needs to gain weight. And I said to him, oh my God, I only wish, like, just eat peanut butter, nuts, dried fruit. All those are very high in calories if you need to gain weight. So the plate is quite different than we've ever had it before. And no longer do they put juice in there. Remember, you used to always have juice. They don't consider juice a healthy food. Have the fruit instead. So in other words, if you're going to make a really healthy smoothie in the morning, that's fine. Otherwise, don't drink your calories. Any other questions?
How long do you keep the cake in the pan before you turn it out?
Well, good question. I'm always in a rush, and I like to get it out fairly quickly. I would say you've got to leave it at least 15 minutes. And if you can get it in a cooler environment, that would be better. Believe it or not, as I said, I do at times shove it into the fridge, even the freezer, just to bring down the temperature quickly. It doesn't affect the cake. And then usually I can invert it. And if you want, I can take a look and try to invert this one now and see. Let's hope it comes out. How's the temperature? Okay. So here's my cake now. And then maybe Lori will just grab me another plate for a second. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's going to come. Just in any round plate, Lori. And Lori, you can check the chicken in a couple other spots too, just to see. Yeah. Okay. So here I'm going to invert it, and let's hope it shouldn't break apart. As I say, if it's too warm, it could. I just heard that lovely like suction, and there's my beautiful cake. So that was what, about 30 minutes? And it actually feels still warm, but it is really delicious warm as well. But remember, your frosting will tend to run a bit.
Perfect, thank you. Can I make more sauce for the chicken?
You'll find you will have enough. It's really pretty wet, but absolutely you could, but you won't need it. I only wish you were here with me in my kitchen right now, because anyone that touches this dish says, what did you do to the chicken? Did you inject it with salt? I go, no, not at all. The chicken right now, the lemon sauce is penetrating it now in the oven. And as we pull it out, I pour the rest over. It sucks into it. Let it sit for 5 minutes. It's really moist, but by all means you could if you want. How is that, Lori? We want to just keep the oven shut as much as we can because the heat escapes. Yeah.
114.
Okay.
The small one.
Okay. Any other questions?
Where do you buy your brisket?
Oh, good question. You know what? I never made brisket a lot, but I've come up with some great recipes of an Asian brisket and some really good ones. I actually buy it at my butcher. I live right by in Northtown. But you know what? If you know your meat market in any supermarket or a Longo's or anything like that, you'll get a good brisket. I always say, don't buy meat at a place you've never bought meat at before. Make sure you know where you're buying it. And I always buy about a 6 to 7 pound brisket, and it's beautiful. It's really nice.
Do you ever use an air fryer? If so, any tips?
You know, good question. I have not yet succumbed to an air fryer. My daughter has. I haven't used it yet because whenever I look at it, the quantity of food you can put in there seems very small. So I've tended to shy away from it. But my daughter says she makes some incredible vegetables. She does the French fries in there. They taste crispy, not greasy. So I've heard very good things about it. I really need to. It's like the Instapot. I had to train myself to start doing the Instapot. And I found that once I learned it, it was really great. I've yet to make a cheesecake in an Instapot. That seems always a little strange to me. But I haven't tried the air fryer, but it's a very hot commodity today. I know that.
A couple of things we just want to add to the chat is the coupon if anyone's interested in buying your cookbook.
Yes, you need it's Rose Save, one word, all Rose Save 10.
Perfect, thank you. And can you give us the name of the knife sharpener place again?
Oh, yes, Nella's, Nellas. And Nella's is just if you take if you're GTA, not sure where everybody's calling in from, but it's a 400 and Finch. And they're fantastic there. They're open now because it's called necessity, because it's for restaurants and everything else. Just go in there. They'll probably tell you to wait in your car. You might want to call them beforehand. Just to make sure that they're, with COVID and everything, make sure what's going on. But the price is so great and the knives are perfect. I think I take my knives there every 3 months. It's great. It's well worth the trip because, most places, send your knives out and they don't come back for you, right? So in the meantime, I'm going to bring out the chicken just to show you. It won't be ready yet, but you'll get a good feel of what it looks like. Okay. All right, I'll be right there. So our chicken's looking good. It's not quite done inside yet. I'm going to show you. And then I had a lot of crumbs there just to show you. This is what our chicken looks like. Okay, looks beautiful. And now what I'm going to do, and again, I'll let you know, as I say, I don't know whether maybe they were just bigger breasts than I thought. Let's just put it in there and see what our temperature is. So I'm looking at my electronic thermometer and it's reading about 130 degrees. So it still needs to go up to 30 degrees. But what I would do in the meantime is just take my dressing if it was ready. Just a spoon, Lori, if we have a little spoon. And the other half of it will just go on top. And then you'll let it sit. I'm telling you, this is so, so good. I hope you can see that. You pour the rest of it over top. It goes through the chicken beautifully. And then wait 5-10 minutes. And either you can slice it. You could actually put the full breast over top. So I've got some tongs, Lori. I had some tongs out here too. I'll just show you here. Yeah. So what you would do is you could either take the whole breast and put it over top like this, just to show you here. Okay, look how beautiful that looks. The whole breast, or cut it in half, or cut it into the medallions. There we go. See, so you can see how beautiful that is as a serving dish, and you're getting a lot more veggies and, lesser protein. But chicken is a pretty lean protein. So we've got to wait till this still cooks up, but thank goodness you're not eating with me because our chicken's not ready yet. Any final questions?
Rose, just a couple more questions on the cake. One, when should I put the icing on the cake, and can I freeze it with the icing?
Yes, you can. The icing goes on the cake the minute it's not too warm. The minute you can touch the cake and it feels lukewarm to you, like this cake now that we had, this feels perfect. It's lukewarm. I would put the icing on, no problem. And you could put the icing on the cake just in here and then freeze it up. And then you invert it and it's going to be fine because the icing will be frozen. So you can always do that, but you have to try to make this cake and email me and tell me what you think because it's really, really good.
And to keep it fresh, can we put the cake in the fridge?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll normally leave, I have like a nice dome for my cakes and I leave a nice wedge in there, but I have to tell you, it will stay longer in the refrigerator. But I like to leave it out because you kind of walk by the dome and you always take a little piece. So it's really good. So I'll show you. We have my dome there, Lori, here. My dome, yeah. So I've got a dome that I always leave in the kitchen like this. I've got a piece of chocolate chip banana bread in there right now. There's always something when I walk by to have a little bite. And I really find my philosophy is that I like to have dessert around and then I mentally know it's there. It's not like it's a big treat. It's not like it's something I can never have. I think when you don't have dessert around you, that's when we binge more. So this cake, because there's only two of us, and because of COVID, I'm not having a lot of people over, of course, I cut a nice wedge of that cake and leave it in here and we finish it off in a couple of days and I'll bring out another piece.
Oh, I wish I was living with you.
Move in.
Um,
Everybody enjoyed this. It's a treat for me, and North York General Hospital, that's my neighboring hospital. They are incredible. Even watching them through the COVID vaccination sites. And I know we've had family members have surgery there. They do a lot, and the front line workers are really out there doing it. So, in your heart, if you can make any donation you can, it would benefit them and make me really happy. And hopefully, maybe Rhea, we can do this again.
Absolutely. I had such a pleasure working with you, Rose. And just to give everybody an update, we're at $1,786 donations. So thank you to everybody that has supported. And please feel free, if you can, consider making a donation.
That's great. Thank you so much to everyone. Lights at the end of the tunnel, guys. We're going to be heading back to normal shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhea.